I don't think she's here. I don't think she's going to be here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So yes, my name is Dawn Clements, and I have the distinct honor and privilege of serving as the ombuds for Fairfax County Public Schools. I am under the direction and supervision of our CXO, Lisa Hall. Unfortunately, she had a scheduling conflict, so she will not be able to join us. But just as a way of overview, this Chief XO is responsible for it stands for Chief Experience and Engagement Officer. And this is sort of a reorg within FCPS. The departments which Lisa will handle as part of the CXO are family partnership, and under family partnership falls the family liaisons, as well as the parent resource center. Government relations will also now fall under the umbrella of CXO, as will the Educate Fairfax, and then our office, which is Office of the Ombuds. So by way of introduction, again, I am with the Office of the Ombuds, and that is a very recent name change. Up until probably 2 days ago, we were Office of the Ombudsman, but we have now switched over to Office of the Ombuds. Within our office, it's myself as the Ombuds. We have Kathy Murphy, who serves as our Assistant Ombuds for Special Education, and an Administrative Assistant, Deanna Johnson. Between the three of us, we have about 70 years of experience within Fairfax County, so we've been around for a while. My background, I started in Fairfax County as a teacher, went on to serve as a department chair, as well as I did a year of administrative internship and served as a procedural support liaison for over 10 years. I joined the Office of the Ombuds, or at that time, Office of the Ombudsman, in 2019 under the leadership of Armando Perry. I know he's kind of a legend in the division, so I had the great honor of working with him for about 3 years. He retired in June, and so I stepped in to the role of the Ombuds. And probably my most challenging, as well as my most rewarding role, is that of a parent of an FCPS graduate. If you can go to the next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So during our time together tonight, some of the things that I would like to talk about would be the outreach opportunities that we are seeking to explore within the Office of the Ombuds. Next, discuss the role of the Ombuds, what we actually do. And lastly, discover ways how we support our visitors within our office. A quick description of our office within the Office of the Ombuds. Our role, and you can click again.
Right. There we go. We go back.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what happened there.
I think we have advanced too far.
There we go.
Yes. So our role as organizational ombuds, which we are being K-12, is that we help our parents, our students, employees, community members, basically anyone who seeks our support. We will engage with them to hopefully allow them an opportunity to find out exactly how Fairfax County works. We are a county that is very large, and sometimes you just don't know where to go for resources. So we hope to be able to serve as a compass kind of in that way to kind of allow people assistance in navigating the system. We also hope to be able to brainstorm options by which our visitors can reach their desired outcomes, as well as clarifying steps in order to resolve some complaints. As organizational ombuds, we're a little different than what you might have heard of as advocacy ombuds. A lot of times when you hear of the name ombuds as it is associated with the military or healthcare, they actually do investigations, or they actually have power or authority to make some changes. As K-12 organizational ombuds, we do not. We follow the principles of the International Ombuds Association, and we highlight these with our caller at the beginning of each phone call. We tell them that we're confidential, so any information that is shared with us, we do not divulge or let anyone even know that they've contacted our office, but we are still mandatory reporters. So of course, if they tell us that someone is being in imminent harm, we are obligated to pass that along. And likewise with financial fraud, we are obligated to share that. We're independent, reporting directly to the CXO, so we are allowed to entertain conversations on any particular topic that the caller would like to discuss. We're impartial, even though we work for Fairfax County Public Schools. It is not our job to defend Fairfax County Public Schools by any stretch of the imagination. We don't take sides. We don't take the sides of the caller or take the sides of the school division. And lastly, we are informal. Similar to what I was saying earlier, as being informal, we don't have power or authority to change any rules or policies or regulations or anything of that nature. We simply work in a way that our callers can hopefully have options to kind of work through their concerns. And I see a question, Andrew. Is it okay if I just maybe wait till we get
Sure.
to the end? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no
Thank you so much. All right, so how we work. Our visitors contact our office, and I'll give you ways by which they do that in a little further in the presentation. But because we are impartial, we feel that it's important that our visitor actually reach out to us. A lot of times school staff will maybe ask, well, can you call Mr. Jones, or can you maybe make contact with his parent? And we don't want the caller or our visitors to feel as though we're doing so on behalf of someone else. So we respectfully ask that they give our contact information and have the visitor contact us. After that initial contact, we make an appointment within with a mutually agreeable time that will work for us as well as our caller. And usually it's within 1 to 2 days, depending on the schedule constraints. During the call, we listen to our callers, the concerns that they might have, and along the way, we might ask some clarifying questions. And we ask the visitor for their desired outcomes. We think that this is very important because sometimes as we're hearing the conversation, we might think that we know what the caller is going to request, but we absolutely want to move forward on whatever it is the visitor would like us to do. And it's important for us to hear how it is that we might be of most support to them. And as we speak and we get to the point of brainstorming, we typically start with the least formal option, the most informal option, and then move our way up to the formal options. If someone is calling, for instance, and is sharing concerns about something that's happening in the classroom, we might ask at the beginning, well, one option is for you to talk to the teacher. The next option would possibly be to reach out to the AP. And another option would be to reach out to the principal. So again, starting with the most informal options and then working our way up to the formal. Our goals during the phone conversation is for our visitors to have an opportunity to be heard. We will allow our callers to share as much as they would like. A lot of times our callers will give us information about that the child might be in high school, but they might be going back to second grade about something that's happened, and that's absolutely okay. We have the luxury of time to kind of hear the visitor and get the perspective about what's going on. So that kind of sets us apart from any other staff or office within the division. During our call, we maintain that confidentiality and impartiality. We advocate for equality and equitable access. We do not think that it's fair that my child had greater access to particular programs just because I've been in the system for over 20 years and I am aware of such programs. We want everybody to have information about the wonderful resources that Fairfax County has. And we also feel that it's important that folks have access regardless as to their maybe demographics, their zip code, of course, their race, their religion, any of those factors. We work to make sure that all students are able to benefit from that free and appropriate public education. And certain times we influence FCPS by reporting noted trends. So if we happen to hear that we're getting a large number of calls from a particular school about a particular issue, then we would share that information with the region office. Again, not giving any identifiable information, but just to say, we just want you to know we received 5 calls this week about Little Red Schoolhouse and some of the practices that the principal may be engaging in. Next slide. So these are some general topics or categories that we found from our last year. We operate under the fiscal year beginning in beginning July 1, going through June 30th. And the way that we categorize our calls, we put them into 3 kind of baskets. We have our special education calls and our employee calls, and everything that does not fall within special education or employees, we consider those as general. So from our last year's report, we had, as you can imagine, lots and lots and lots of calls as it pertains to COVID. Some of the calls that we received or people had concerns about mask mandates, mitigation strategies, feeling as though the school teams were not following through with mitigation strategies. Another topic that we heard a lot last year was school environment. Thinking of some family members feeling as though that they're having issues with school administration, or maybe feeling as though that the school was not a welcoming environment. We had lots of calls regarding behavior and discipline, feeling as though maybe their child has consequences that did not necessarily match the infraction, or having some concerns about things that were contained within the SR&R. We also, within this category, we considered victims' rights. So maybe a family sharing that their child continues to go to school with a perpetrator, and they are wanting to know what it is that they have rights to as being a victim. And then access to particular programs. Some of those programs might be advanced academics, AVID, free and reduced meals, giving information about how our parents and families can qualify their children for such. And then lots of calls regarding promotion and retention, whether wanting their child to be promoted, or in certain instances, feeling as though the child should be retained. Some of the categories or topics that were covered under our employee bucket were challenges with admin or supervisors, feeling as though the school administration was showing some type of favoritism or unfair practices. We had calls regarding concerns related to job duties, maybe employees feeling as though they were asked to do things and just wanting to be clear as to whether or not that falls within the realm of their job duties. Also with employees, a large number of COVID-19 matters pertaining to employee leave for COVID, vaccine mandates, virtual instruction, and then we continue to field calls about issues around job advancement and promotions. Made questions about why were they not hired or selected for a particular job. And as I stated earlier, we actually have a separate employee who serves as our assistant ombuds for special education. And some of the things that fall within her job purview is serving as a resource and providing information to families regarding special education rights and services. We know that special education kind of takes on a life of its own. It has a language of its own. And so particularly if you're new to special ed, or if the family, this is their first foray into special ed, that might just be overwhelming. And having an opportunity to maybe have a conversation with someone not around the IEP team table is kind of reassuring for our families. Another service that the assistant ombuds serves is the clarification of any type of federal laws or state laws or those practices as it pertains to special education. Talking about roles and strategies that our parents can use to feel comfortable in those IEP meetings, how they might be able to interact with the FCPS team members so that they are feeling, again, more solid in their position as a valued team member. And some common themes that we heard from within special education was just general information about the 504 and special education processes. Again, it's a life of its own. There's a lot of meetings, there's a lot of jargon. So being able to kind of demystify all that. We have questions regarding procedural concerns, perhaps with timelines or IEP implementation. Issues with FCPS staff serving as gatekeepers. A lot of families feel as though it's not necessarily a team decision, but perhaps one member there, whether it be school administration or a central office staff member, making all the decisions, not necessarily being as collaborative as we would like it to be. And then also questions regarding instruction, particularly as it pertains to perhaps particular reading programs or maybe placement within particular programs. So all of that are things that we kind of hear and things that we can kind of assist our parents with as it pertains to special education. So we have been, like I said, the office has been in existence since 2018. However, we are still finding that there are a lot of people who do not know about us. So we would go out basically to anywhere that we're invited to kind of get the word out that our office exists and that we are looking for ways to support, again, community members, families, students, staff. These are just some previous places or events which we have presented, the lots of different parent groups, community groups, houses of worship, special education conference. So like I said, you name it. If basically if they invite us and it's not a scheduling conflict, we're there. And we would love if you could get the word out again that our office exists. And these are ways by which people can contact us, just the ombuds at fcps.edu. I will tell you that, again, our name change is very new. So if you go onto ombuds at fcps.edu, it should be operational, but they said that it might take 24 hours. We still might be under ombudsman, but within the next tomorrow or perhaps the next day, all of these should be working. But if it's not ombuds, then it's ombudsman. So people can just do a search through FCPS and find us that way. Just search ombuds. The QR code is there. They will take you directly to our website. And on our website, we have brochures available in the 9 most popular languages within FCPS. So people can go directly to our website and download the version that they would find to be most helpful. And I think that is it. All right. So Andrew, thank you so much for holding on.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for coming back to me. Just a couple of questions to make sure I understand, where your organization fits and kind of like a roles and functions thing, right?
Sure.
So for you said that you work for the CXO. For whom does the CXO work? Does the CXO report directly to the superintendent?
Yes.
Okay. So the analogy that I want to draw, again, having been in the government, right? The analogy I want to draw is something like Inspector General equivalent. I mean, is it that kind of function that the Ombud serves currently?
Unfortunately, I don't know enough about the Inspector General to know what it is that they, but I think that the Inspector General does investigations, do they not?
Yes. If someone's got a complaint, the IG may, like you say, do an investigation. Is there merit to it? What are the facts? And then the real purpose of the IG is to provide information to superintendent, CIO, or CX, whomever, about possible policy changes, things that are not provide information about systems, if you will, personnel, policy, whatever, which may not be working to achieve the desired result. So, based on this draft of complaints, here are the facts I found. Here are my recommendations to get to this policy. So does that kind of describe what I mean? Based on what you said, I think it kind of aligns with that.
So we do not, again, we don't do any investigations.
Sure.
So we go by what our visitor shares. So and duly noted, it's their perspective. So we can, if they ask us to, also because of the confidential nature of our work, we're not going to go back and try to find out whether or not the information that they shared was correct. There are instances when our visitors will request that we reach out to the principal. Like they will say, I really am not comfortable in doing this. Can you reach out to the principal on our behalf? Absolutely, we will. And we are very clear as to what it is that you want us, what the caller wants us to share. And so we'll say, you want us to share about this, but you don't want us to talk about that. And so from that, letting in this case, the principal know that our visitor has reached out to our office and they are seeking our support on whatever matter it is. And at that time, it's kind of our hands are kind of out of it. We sometimes we'll just report back to our visitor, yes, we've made contact as you have requested. Well, when we do report back, it's trends. So if we're hearing a lot of calls regarding, like right now, the kind of like the hot topic is the model policy. So if we start to hear lots of calls regarding take a lot of calls regarding the model policy, we will just take note of, okay, we received 5 calls from the model policy. There have been 3 people who have been in support of it and 2 who've not been supporting it, and just sharing that type of information, but with no identifiable indicators or anything like that.
Okay, I see. All right, thanks for that. I guess my follow-on question to that is, do you have statistics or something which is publicly available about the kind of calls that you get?
Yes, we have reported we're just wrapping up our Q1. It ended on September 30th. So we're in the process of compiling our Q1 report for this fiscal year. So that's not yet available, but it will be. The reports, and most recently with our end of year report, our end of year 21-22 is submitted to the superintendent, and then it is shared with the school board. So that report is available on the board docs.
Okay, all right. Thank you for all that information. Very helpful.
Yes, absolutely. And let's see, there was a
Laura Witten. Do you want to share your question out loud? You're welcome to if you like. I'll read it in her stead. As a PTSA leader, when is the right time for us to refer someone to your office? Anytime
as you feel as though that our services might be of benefit to them. Because we are independent, again, we can hear topics on any particular matter, any particular issue. And we welcome calls from, again, the families, students, employees, even community members. Sometimes community members have questions about FCPS practices, and we're happy to speak to them as well.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments or concerns? Ms. Clemens? No, I really thank you for coming on. I think a lot of people don't necessarily know what you do or even knew that you existed. So it's good to have this out there and people can use the resource, and hopefully we keep you busy, but not too terribly busy.
I greatly appreciate that. Yes, if you feel as though that there might be anyone who might benefit, just pass it along. Hi, Charles.
Hi there. Just wondered if you could give maybe your favorite anecdote from where you were able to make a positive change in the life of an ombuds. Can't even say it, but yeah.
And a lot of times we don't necessarily know, like we talk to our callers and then we kind of like step away. If they don't circle back around to us and say, oh, it was very helpful when you shared X, Y, and Z, we don't necessarily know. However, we feel that it's a great thing whenever we have those repeat callers. They'll say, you've helped me with this issue 6 months ago, and then they reach back out to us. Or we hear, I was referred to you by my neighbor, or I was referred to you by my coworker. And so we feel like that's always a good thing.
Job satisfaction. Great.
Tara,
I just wanted to do a personal plug. I have personally benefited from the Ombuds office. I spoke to both you, Don, and Armando. This was the year before COVID. So it was the year of COVID, but it was before COVID. And I can't share the details, but you guys changed my son's life for the better in an amazing, like overreaching, life-changing way. So personal testament to the Ombudsman office.
Oh, Kara, you just touched my heart. Thank you so very much for that.
You're welcome.
Glad to hear that it worked out.
excellent. Anything else? Don, once again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Of course, you're welcome to stick around as long as you like, but no obligation whatsoever.
I think I will bid you all adieu. Have a great evening. Thank you so much for the invite.
All right, thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.
All right, with that, we're going to move on to our official meeting, our business meeting, so to speak. Call that to order. First thing you all should be seeing here on your screen is the agenda such that it is. Obviously, Dawn is first. All right, some of you got this in the email already. We'll show it a couple times throughout the day. You notice that item 4 is a presentation on the youth survey. That person will be on as best they can. We might have to jump around a little bit if they show up a little early or a little bit late because of that. That being said, welcome you all. Thank you all for coming. We have like 37, 38 people on this call right now, which is a good turnout, and probably others that are going to get this as well. I'm going to put some documents in the chat box shortly here as they become relevant to our conversation, but I want you all to be aware of that as well. So be mindful of some of those things. Moving forward. All right. As always, started by our illustrious previous president, I want to start off by stating our mission statement. The PTA's mission is to make every child's potential reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. Pretty easy, right? And there's our board, as they are. I want to give a special thanks to Jenna White, our VP of Communications. She's actually not on the call today, but almost all the material you're seeing today on the slides and the documents you'll be receiving were generated and organized by her. A lot of person hours put into those, so I really appreciate her for doing that work as well. Obviously, you see a couple help wanted spots there, some vacant things we have available. So we will be a plug for some of you to maybe join in for that. And you can either reach out to me directly, you can send an email through our website. There's lots of ways you can get on there to let us know what you want to join in. See, there we go. So here's our needs right now. We have our minority student advocacy committee that we need a response for that, and career training. Those are school advisory boards that work with the school board directly. We don't have a representative for those specifically yet. So if you are interested in those, by all means, please reach out. And some internal committees for us, military families chair, though I did have someone reach out recently with interest for that. So hopefully we can fill that as soon. And reflections and spelling bee assistant chair. So we do have a long running and well-deserved recognition for Eliza Morris for being our spelling bee chair. But as we all happen, eventually we all graduate eventually from this world of middle education. So she is graduating. So we will need somebody to kind of jump in there with her, maybe do some things with her this year so you can learn how to do it next year. And then same thing with reflections. Denise Bolton has stepped in as the temporary chair for that, but we will need somebody for that as well going forward. I'm very familiar with the program. They have a little bit to say about them later on today, so you'll be able to hear more about that. On our website, there are descriptions of those positions and as well as an interest form for you to fill out if you are such interested. Do not be concerned with there being too much work or too little work. Definitely not too little work, but there's a committee of people and nothing that anybody does is by themselves. We are all collectively working on all these things. Just need somebody to kind of spearhead the efforts. Moving forward, Colleen, are you here? Colleen Coggins? Sorry, wrong Colleen. I am going to drop the minutes from our last meeting in the chat there. Let me know if you guys can see that, and hopefully you can open it. Can anybody confirm they can open that? Well, Colleen's mic is not
All right, hold on.
Okay. Colleen, I will speak in your stead. Can you guys open that? Anyone? No? Yes? Yes. I'm seeing heads, nods. Okay, excellent. All right, so those are the minutes from our last meeting. It was way back in May. So that's the last time we had anything to approve minute wise. Give you all a second to review that. And if you would, with that being said, we do have to officially take a vote to have those minutes approved. So can I get a motion for that? So moved by,
Larry,
yes.
yes,
I'm not seeing it in the chat. Are you sure you clicked like, send or whatever?
I think I did. Let me try it again. Hold on.
yeah,
Did it work?
I was
I
able
got it.
to open it.
You were able to?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hold on here. Can you guys see that now?
Oh,
Yes.
It's kind of ridiculous, right? This is kind of a ridiculous process, but I can't imagine there'd be much that somebody would object to in the minutes from a meeting 6 months ago. But I do want to give people their due diligence. So if you have a chance to review that, you definitely can. It is in the chat as far as I know. Put the document there. And I am going to launch a poll regarding that, unless there's any objections for people not being able to see it. No objections? All right, here's the poll for the approval of minutes. Those of you that are listed as co-hosts cannot vote because hosts can't vote. So the three of you, if you want to message Colleen directly so she can record it, as so noted. All right, everyone that can answer has answered. And the results are quite simply 95% yay, no nays, and one person abstaining. The yays have it. Minutes from last meeting are approved. Thank you all very much for that. All right, moving right along here. Colleen, sorry your mic's not working, but Colleen's working behind the scenes getting things done, so thank you for that. Moving on. Jamie Yarusi is also not here. So normally our meetings are on Wednesdays. In recognition of Yom Kippur yesterday, we moved the meeting to today. That has resulted in some scheduling conflicts, so we do have a couple people in absentia today. But Jamie did prepare a video, short video for everybody to see regarding this. The two items in particular are to vote as a unit on the results of the review, formerly called we're not gonna use that word anymore. The review from last year's audit. We're gonna put that in the chat as well. And they're also gonna vote on our budget for this coming year as well. I'll put both those documents in the chat as well. They're also available on our site, but here's the message from Jamie. Sure hope this works sound-wise.
Yeah, Larry, I don't think we're getting any audio.
I don't think you are getting the audio. Hold on, let me see if I can solve that. Let me see if I can solve that problem. Give me 1 second here. May not be able to. But no, I don't think that's going to be possible for us, to be honest with you. Hold on. Let's try this. Nothing, huh? Fair enough. I apologize for that. Haven't figured that out yet. I'm not a Zoom master. I'm going to very simply be in the chat box. I'm going to put the financial review first. You're getting in a PDF form. Hopefully you all can open that, but just in case, I'll open it again. So as a reminder, all of you all with local units know it's very similar. It's the same thing you do for your local units. It is impossible to see, of course, but we have all of our financials reviewed as well. Accordingly from the year before, that is ratified and looked at by a lot of different people on that committee this year, where Debbie, beneficial auditor, Robert, Debbie, Patrick, and Colleen all did it, and they found no issues, no reconciliations necessary. Between the chat and the thing, can you guys see that on your screen in some way, shape, or form?
yes,
Verbal-
Larry. Yeah, we
verbal-
can see it.
Okay.
I'm happy to just as a member of the committee,
Please.
it was, Jamie, of course, is an excellent treasurer. She had provided all the online forms to Robert and Colleen and I, and it was a very easy process. I think there was maybe one recommendation that would have been on the final page.
Yes.
But that was actually a recommendation that Jamie put forth. So to bring us, and I can't remember, I can't see it quite in detail, but I don't know if you can make it larger.
I can't. I'm not even gonna try.
Okay, so it was just something that she felt that needed to be implemented with the council, but it's just a simple thing. So yeah, everything went really well. And if there's no further questions, I think.
Rob Johnson has his hand raised. Rob, you acknowledge?
All right, thank you. My only question is, I think on the other page, it shows that there is both a checking and a savings account. So my question is, why is there a savings account?
I don't know. Debbie, if you can answer, I don't know if there's a reason, but
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I've been associated with the council for probably 10 to 12 years. And when I came on board, there was an existing savings account. That is something that our review committee did discuss with Jamie. And I believe going forward, it will require bringing it forth probably to this body, but that is going to be a plan to move that, close out that savings account and move it into the operational account. A lot of PTAs across the state years and years ago kind of put some funds aside into a savings account. But I mean, there's nothing against having funds in a savings account, and you always show that in your budget, and it is part of your operational funds. But we just felt like it's time to move that into the operation. So that will be one of the items going forward for the budget committee to look at for the financial review committee.
Yeah, and so that does answer my question, and so I appreciate that. And having gone through that at the local level to merge the savings into the checking, I don't know who the right person to ask the question of is, but my question when I was treasurer last year was the exact same. Why did the PTA have a savings account? It was much of what you just said, like years ago they had it. I guess when I went through the treasurer training, as you mentioned, there is no guidance of whether to have or not have a savings account. I guess my suggestion / recommendation is to have that reviewed at some level, only because I've dealt with 2 banks now, and the rules about who can be signers and have access to either one or both of those accounts is different. And I'm not sure that a savings account follows the spirit of the rules that Virginia PTA or Fairfax County PTA want the PTAs to follow. So my recommendation is to somewhere make that an explicit review.
duly
Thank
noted.
you.
That's a valid point.
Do we get interest from the savings account? And is it significant?
Yes.
Very, very little, very, very little. It's not a CD. It's not an investment account. It is simply a simple savings account. It's almost like, I think PTAs used to, maybe when they had a good year, it's almost like reserves, like we're going to put this aside. But also within your budget, you should have a kind of a startup carryover budget line to kind of get you going in the new year until you have some income coming in and membership dues. So thank you, Rob. I will, Larry, of course, will brief Jamie. And since I serve at the state level, I'm happy to share that with our state treasurer as well, Anne Marie Ward.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, just to add to that, and so I agree with that, the idea of carry forward. I guess from an accounting and budget standpoint, what we went through again at the local level was a discussion of you can have a reserve in the checking account that you line item in your budget. And so my only additional 2 cents is that historically, if you have a volunteer as a treasurer, there may be some misunderstanding about how to carry forward money. And that could be the reason why there was a savings account, because they didn't think they could carry forward in the checking account. But that's not what the guidance says. But thank you.
Excellent.
I'm happy to help or be a part of that discussion if
No, I appreciate it. I've got it written down. Andrew.
Hi, sorry to be the question guy here tonight.
That's all right.
But my question is directly is follow on or related to the one we just heard. Do we have a requirement to like zero out the checking account at the end of the year, spend all the money, something like that, or is it okay for us to carry over, like you said?
It's definitely okay to carry over. So there dollars are accounted for in the budget, which we'll vote on next. But there are times when said dollars don't get spent or we underspend because the event didn't cost as much, or the situation, or the thing gets canceled because, I mean, God forbid, like we had in the past few years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Monies we carry over, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No problem at all. Any other questions on that? All right, that being said, let me stop sharing that. And I will share now the vote for on this. So we're voting on actually we need a motion for it, please. Can I get a motion to approve the financial review from last year?
I make a motion to approve the financial review for the year 2021 through 2022.
Excellent, thank you. Launching the poll now. All right, we're all in, 100% voted, and unanimously, yeas have it. Last year's review is approved. Thank you all for that so much. Appreciate it. All right, moving right along with more financial things. We have our budget for this year, which I'll also put in the chat, and I will share on screen as well. I believe I will. Unfortunately, the format does not allow me to see the whole thing here. But again, our budgets are posted on our site. I'll give everybody a moment to either review the document in the chat box or try and keep up with what I'm scrolling through here as I do it slowly. Worth noting that there was an NAACP grant to a student from last year. The student has not been responsive, so that money is kind of in limbo. It is on the budget because it still doesn't technically exist, but we need to reach out to NAACP and how they want us to allocate those funds, because it is a grant to a student that has not responded. So that is an outlier, I guess you would say. Same thing, that's the same money right there. I don't think anything in red is noteworthy. And consequently, Robert, here's a note. You'd have a conversation what we should do with this, and do we need to cash it out and put it in safe and checking? So it is duly noted by our treasurer as well. Jamie is really, really good with this stuff. Like I wish she was here, but she is really dialed in. So if you and your independent units have any questions about it too, please reach out and we can get you in touch with her, because she's really good at what she does in terms of this. And any questions from the data you have so far? Gemma.
Good evening, thank you. It's not a question specifically to this document, but just, I guess, a more general one about the documentation. I just wondered if it might be possible to, in future, share the links for people to be able to view the documents ahead of the meeting. It might just enable us to prepare a little better and have better prepared questions for you guys.
Absolutely.
That was my only question. Thank you very much.
And that actually is a normal protocol. I don't know. I can't speak to why that didn't happen this particular time. I think the scheduling threw us off a little bit. We do try and get some of these documents out ahead of time. We will get better at that. as well.
Oh, I get it. Like life happens, right? But
Yeah. But absolutely, we definitely try and do that as well.
thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we need a motion for voting on this. Oh, Eliza has her hand raised, please.
Yes, just to Gemma's question, isn't it so that Jenna White has posted things like the budget and any important documents already up on FCCPTA.org, our website? So those things, Jenna's usually she's our VP of Communications, and she's usually very quick about posting all these materials as soon as they're ready. So you may not know that they're there, but they are stored there and available. So just for future reference.
Absolutely. And if you all are getting the 5-on-5, a lot of that stuff links in, a lot of information is in there. We have a pretty good open rate on those, but ours is not 100%. And if you aren't getting that, please make a note in the chat so that we can see your email. And then Colleen, if you see any emails there, make sure we can add them to the mail file, make sure they get those. That being said, see no other questions, we'll proceed with a vote on the budget item if I can get this thing to work. Bear with me 1 second here. All right, let's see here. All right. On the budget. All right. Voting on approving the budget as presented. Give it a few more. All righty. Gave it 45 seconds like I did. All right, the results are in that we have. Share the results here. 100% of voters say yay. Budget is approved as stated. Thank you all for that. All right, this is the unfun part, all the business part of our meeting, right? Unfun but necessary. Let me go back to sharing the document with you guys here. So by the way, as you're noting, this is a good thing to note. So normally, there's multiple people running a meeting. Jenna usually runs the slides, somebody runs the meeting, somebody on his chat, blah, blah. So as you can tell, the logistics of doing so when you're missing people is not smooth. So for your own individual meetings, if you're doing a virtual meeting, I do suggest you have a producer of sorts to handle some of the technical sides of things so that as presiding over your meetings, you can just handle the flow of the meeting and they can keep you on track accordingly there. All right, next up, another person, Robert Rigby is our VP of Advocacy. He is not here today, also conflict of schedule. We did a couple bullet items that he wanted to make relevant. Some things that we're focusing on in our advocacy efforts are student, staff, and family wellness, mental health, advocating for increased mental health and health in schools, including social workers, nurses, psychologists in alignment with national PTA resolutions and initiatives, advocating and inquiring about school lockdown drills and procedures. There is an invitation for members to provide input. There's a meeting scheduled for October 10th at 7 p.m. If you have not seen that invitation, you'll be able to register for it. That'll come in your email, or you can find it on our site as well. And then obviously school lunches, discussing a questionnaire about concerns and information from parents and families about regarding school lunch as well. So those are our main thought points this year on regarding advocacy. So far up to date, we've done a lot of things already. Robert's a pretty dynamic person. Our members have spoken at school board meetings. They're members of the different school board advisory committees as well. We did host a webinar, if you guys were present, it was really good, about School Board 101, what that means to you as both a PTA member and as a parent, how you can reach your school board, what to reach them for, and how to do so. That was 101. We do plan on having a 102 or 201, whatever, at some point in time for the next level of things. But Robert's always available to answer any questions regarding that. We did partner with SCAN, Stop Child Abuse Now. for webinar on empowering safer kids. I think that was this past Monday, if I'm not mistaken. And then our first advocacy newsletter was published featuring Bucknell's achievements. If you have any advocacy success stories or advocacy matters you can help with, you can definitely submit that information to Robert as well. Jen.
Hi there. I don't know if this was in the newsletter or maybe I missed it, but I'm the FLECAC representative.
Uh-huh.
And we're kind of really on hold this year because we did a
I apologize, Jen, for those uninitiated. Can you tell us what FLECAC is?
Family Life Education Curriculum Advisory Council. So whenever they want to change the FLE, anybody in the school system wants to change the FLE curriculum, the school board members set an agenda every year for the committee to consider the changes. And we're guided by staff, and we're PTA members, there are teachers, there are administrators, there are doctors, there are all sorts of people on the committee. And we did so much work last year, and what we thought was our least controversial recommendation blew up, which is we said, let's stop gender segregation in FLE. Like, if we're trying to remove stigma and embarrassment around bodies, let's stop these gender segregated lessons, which were only happening in like 2 or 3 grades. Well, there was a lot of pushback to that. And so the school board decided not to vote on the recommendations, and hopefully they're going to do so in the next coming months, because until they put to bed what we did last year, we don't have any instruction on what we can do this year.
Duly noted.
So there was one thing that we didn't finish, which is, like, we were talking about consent. So we're kind of still working on that, but we really are we can't do much until the school board moves forward on the recommendations that we made last year.
Understood. Thank you for that. Now, these committees are not just nameless, faceless things. They're real things that affect people and real families. And I want to appreciate you for taking the time and being there and sharing that with us as well. Because know that we have an advocacy, at least from our seat, involved in the activities as well.
Well, and I will tell you that there was one recommendation from the committee that is probably really going to not make people happy, which is introducing the concept of gender identity in elementary school. And that's likely to not go over well.
I imagine it'll be, yeah, it'll be conversation worthy, to say the least.
I have a question.
Yes.
I guess this is for Jen. Why did you, it's going to be controversial. Why did you feel the need to introduce it? What was your rationale?
Why would we not? Why would we not introduce something just because it's controversial?
I think that's a valid answer as well. So again, these are discussions to be had. And we can discuss these at various places and times. But these discussions that we do have to have as community members, as parents, as families, as people living in communities, the things we need to discuss. And by bringing them up, we at least get a chance to have a discussion regarding them one way or another, which I think is usually good. On a similar note, so and remember the advocacy policy. So there was a resolution proposal was made by Virginia Department of Education. Some of you may be familiar or not, regarding a policy from them on, how do I say this correctly? I'll just read it. That may compel FCPS to withdraw many of the protections for transgender or gender expansive students and altering our non-discriminatory policy at a burden of paperwork. As the officers, we issued a statement regarding that proposed amendment. And then we voted as officers, and we voted as a board, though it was not unanimous. Majority did approve said statement. We don't have to make it a statement as an entire FCCPTA as a whole. but it is something that we could discuss and we could vote on if we decided to. It is very difficult, very likely for us to get into the weeds on this discussion right now, and that's not what I want to do. But I wanted to put it out there so that make you all aware of what's happening in the world, because by not sharing information is not going to get us anywhere, right? Let me go forward a little bit here. There's a lot of words on the screen. I don't expect you all to read all of it. What I'm going to do is put the statement that we prepared in the chat here, if I can. Hold on one second. I'm just seeing Robert's question here, so but Amanda, no, we can't turn on captions. We tried to turn captions on, we could not. I don't know if you can do it as an individual user or not. There. Robert Bear's question. Curious and real question. Does Rigby speak for all FCCPTA when he's on the news praising the FCPS policy to not communicate with parents regarding transitioning or lifelong physical changes? I can't. It's a very loaded question. I can say that as a board, we did vote on this statement that you see in your on your chat box there. As an entire FCCPTA body, we have not voted on such a thing. Again, we don't have to, or we could. Seems like it could be a point of contention, which is fine. That's the nature of discussion. But I wanted to make you all aware of what our position was as a board, and then we can either vote on it today, we can vote on it later, we can vote on it not at all. We were prepared to do any of those. I understand there may be some discussion on this, which I fully anticipate if anybody does. So I would like to make a motion that we limit said discussion to, I don't know, 5 minutes, because it could go on for hours. Does anybody second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have anything they'd like to share or add or anything? Gemma.
Hello again.
Hey.
Hi, this is more a question about the procedure of if we were to have a vote tonight. Having been reading up on the rules around it, I know that I can vote as a member personally, but as a PTA president in that public role, I can't have an opinion about something that I haven't had approved by my membership for the PTA that I am the president of. So I guess my question is, if we're voting tonight, are those of us attending voting as ourselves, as individuals, or are we voting on behalf of our PTAs? In which case, do we need to have had said proposal put to our own membership and approved before we can approve it for you? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I think that was my primary concern, because as we are here in this capacity, not as ourselves, so we can't leave ourselves at the door. We are here representing a group of folks, just as I represent the group of you. So I think that's appropriate, and I don't necessarily think we're going to come to a vote today. But again, I want to get the information in your hand and something that we can vote on at a later time. See if it's something that we even want to discuss at all. So I think that's valid, and I would think that your opinion would be you're voting as your unit, representing a unit. And if you don't feel comfortable doing so, then I would not.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think I'm gonna put it to vote, to be honest with you. The more I think about it. Colleen, that's your hand raised.
Hey, Larry, this is Colleen Jones for anyone on the phone. Just want to clarify that this policy, or excuse me, this statement put out by FCCPTA would just highlight the value of inclusion rather than denote any action coming behind this statement. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Andrew.
Yeah, hi. For the benefit of the group there, I just a few minutes ago downloaded the model policy that we're talking about here and uploaded it to the chat, so the group here can download it. Let me make sure I understand what the previous speaker just said, and if my understanding is correct, when we vote here on, it sounds like we're not going to vote on it right now, which is fine.
Correct, yeah.
But when we vote on approving or rejecting the statement, it's as a representative of our sort of home schools, if you will. Is that correct?
That'd be correct, yes. So if you don't feel that you have either have the support of or have even broached the subject with your local units, then that would be something to not vote on, which is also why we're not voting on it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fair because
Yeah.
I certainly have my opinion about it, which we've already talked about.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
But-
So that's and as a broader point, that's something else that I want to mention. It's like there are going to be many times, because all of our communities are somewhat different, where our own individual thoughts one way or another on any subject could differ than that of the body.
Mhm.
And though I may want to put this statement out universally and tattoo it on my back, it does not mean that I'm able to do so as FCCPTA president.
Sure.
So we did make a point that when we did publish it to say that it was the opinion of the officers, not of the FCP as a whole, FCCPTA.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Although Larry, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure if that point really is picked up by people on TV or all that, because I think your average person who just kind of skims the headline says, "Oh well, the FCCPTA says this is a good idea or it's not a good idea." So
100%, absolutely. So I will say from anecdotally that as many that feel that way, there are many that are and are also saying, why haven't you acted yet? So we obviously, as you can imagine, there's both sides quite a bit, saying both sides of the statement. But again, when to broach it with you all, let you all make me aware of what's going on.
Okay.
Whether we decide or not, it's
Okay.
duly noted that it's not appropriate for us to vote on at this point in time. But again, I want to make you all aware of it.
All right. Thank you for all that, Larry. Again, just so I make sure I got it.
Yeah.
Then the action for me or for us then is to take the statement back to our local schools and say, hey, approve, disapprove, tell me
Right.
why, and take
Right.
it back.
Is this something, first of all, is this something that's on our radar? Do we care enough to have an opinion? And if we do, what is our opinion? And the opinion may be that your community is diverse enough in opinion that you might this. Yes, I think that Amanda, that Robert or somebody shared it in, Andrew shared the actual thing in the chat.
Yeah,
as well as ours is there as
right.
well.
The one I shared is it's the VA Department of Ed, and again, it is. Again, I actually read it.
Yeah.
And
It's a lot.
I know.
It's a lot to read.
I actually read it, and again, it's a model policy, right? So from that, I conclude. Maybe I'm missing something, but from that, I conclude that we here in Fairfax can either adopt it or not, right? Because the decision maker, the center of gravity here is the Fairfax County School Board.
That part is accurate. Yes.
So I don't. Again, if we're going to talk about our statement, I don't see how this policy hanging, or not even a policy, the model policy hanging out there really changes anything. I mean, look, if the locality adopts it, it adopts it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so anyway, all right.
With our timing, Debbie, you're the last comment on this matter.
Yeah, all right,
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you for recognizing me, Larry. I just wanted to reference, I'm not sure if it's in the whereas, if you want to go to the one before, but I know the statement that our executive board approved for the council reference, yes, there it is, National PTA resolution that was approved in, I believe, 2016. I happened to attend the National PTA convention in Orlando that year as Fairfax County Council president. And it was overwhelmingly supported back in 2016 that we have to make a statement that we include all students. And I encourage all of our leaders here tonight and those who are not here to actually review that resolution and to become more familiar with what National PTA positions and resolutions are. And it is always surrounded about the health and safety of all children, and because we are inclusive of all. So that was just, what I wanted to be sure that's referenced. And it's not just a link, it's actually some very important information, as well as background research that was prepared for that particular resolution. So thank you, Larry.
No problem. Thank you for that. I'm actually going to stick the link for that particular page from our website into the chat as well, if I can find this correctly here. Unless somebody's done it already, but here it is just in case. There it is as well. All right. Thank you all for that conversation. Again, this is what we're here for, right? Advocacy is not always pretty or easy, so sometimes we have to talk about these things. I just found out that Michael Axler is actually here on the call, and I know his time is a little bit different here, so I'm going to, with that, we're going to skip ahead a little bit and go to his portion of the presentation here. Michael, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Larry.
No problem. I'm going to share the slides over here. And if you need me to go forward, you can obviously tell me to move forward.
Thanks. Sounds good. And I'm not sure I'm gonna necessarily constrain it to 5 things to know, but I was told to keep this brief and focused. So, you know, I'll try and err on the side of being succinct. And if there's more information that's needed, I'll certainly do my best to try and help out. But good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me with you. I'm Dr. Mike Axler. I'm the Acting Director of Intervention and Prevention Services for FCPS, and I appreciate you accommodating my daughter's bedtime and my schedule to be able to make it here this evening. So if we can advance the slides. Again, I was asked to give you a very brief high-level summary of some key takeaways from the 2021 Youth Survey results. If you want to review these results in detail, I would recommend visiting the Fairfax County government's webpage on the youth survey to view the full reports. It's administered to 6th graders, a separate survey, and then a different survey to 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. Those reports are respectively about 150 and 250 pages. So there's a lot of data, a lot of information in there. I'm really going to try and hit some of the points that I think people are probably a little bit more interested in learning about, and talk about some of those implications. So one of the first results that we got from this, and just to clarify, this was administered in November of 2021. And so when we're asking for students to report on experiences within the past year, this would have been from November 2020 to November 2021, just so people have a sense of the context of when these questions were asked. The increase in mental health concerns was probably the most anticipated finding, and also one of the more concerning findings. So as you can see up there on the screen, 38% of youth reported feeling sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks or longer. 17% considered attempting suicide, and 6% reported actually attempting suicide. One of the things I want to emphasize is that this trend didn't start with the pandemic. We have national data and local data that made it clear that the mental health needs of our youth had been growing for really at least a decade before the pandemic even started. What the pandemic did was exacerbate these needs. And the numbers that you see here are the highest that we've ever seen since we started measuring them with the youth survey. And this tracks with national data. And as high as our numbers are, they're actually lower than the national averages. So this is a snapshot of what we're seeing with our youth. On the next slide, we start to go into a little bit of the risk, because the mental health needs weren't necessarily distributed equally. There are certain students who are at higher risk than others. Female students consistently have reported higher levels of depressive symptoms, suicidal ideation, and suicide attempts than male students. This is something we've seen ever since we started the survey. It's something that's seen nationally, and it's highlighted here, as you can see in the distinctions that we saw in the 2021 youth survey. On the next slide, we see another at-risk group, which is that students who identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexuals are at higher risk for mental health concerns. This is another consistent and concerning trend. Around 2/3 of our gay, lesbian, and bisexual youth in Fairfax report depressive symptoms, compared to less than 1/3 of heterosexual youth. Suicidal ideation is 4 times higher for gay, lesbian, and bisexual youth compared to heterosexual youth, and suicide attempts are nearly 5 times higher for our gay, lesbian, and bisexual youth. Moving on to our next slide, our transgender students are our highest risk subgroup by far. These data are pretty alarming, and they mirror national data and speak to a significant need among our transgender youth. You can see there that 75% of transgender youth reported feeling persistently sad or hopeless, 61% considered attempting suicide, and 24% actually attempted suicide. compared to the 5% of non-transgender students. So apropos of the previous conversation, these are considerations we need to take into account as we look at the programming that we put out there for our students. The following slide talks about students from food insecure homes being at higher risk. We have almost 7% of 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students who reported going hungry in the past month due to a lack of food in the home. That percentage varied by race or ethnicity, ranging from around 3% of our white students to 12% of Hispanic students. And this question is sort of a proxy for socioeconomic status, which is revealed as another factor that affects risk of mental health concerns and mental health outcomes. I'll give you a moment to look at those data.
Apologize.
No worries, Larry, that's fine. The next slide talks about an actual positive finding, which is that in contrast to our mental health concerns, we're seeing a decrease in the number of youth who report using substances. You can see the 2021 rates of substance use in brown, which I think if we just click on the next, there we go, compared to the 2019 rates in blue. And the rates that we're currently seeing of substance use are actually the lowest rates of substance use among Fairfax County youth that we've seen in the past 10 years. And they're also significantly lower than national rates. So something that we can take heart in. We're also seeing a decrease in bullying and a decrease in cyberbullying. The 2021 rates for bullying and cyberbullying were also the lowest that have ever been reported. So this is not to say that these are not concerns, but to say that the scope and extent of these concerns is less than it's been at any point since we started measuring. And then the next slide talks about protective factors. These are the supports, the opportunities and relationships that our youth need across all aspects of their lives in order to build resilience, which is essentially the ability to overcome serious hardship. And Larry, I think there's a couple more clicks that should get the other ones there. There we go. So we can see that most students feel safe at school. Most students have the opportunity to talk one-on-one with a teacher. Parents of most students are aware of their whereabouts. Family members being respectful of one another. Students reporting taking responsibility for their actions and doing their best at jobs, even if they dislike them. I want to emphasize when we talk about resilience that we're not talking about a child's character or a child's determination. We're talking about how are our families, our schools, our communities coming together to create for our youth a sense of safety, connection, belonging, and support. So this is our report card. And it looks like we're having still relatively high levels of protective factors or assets, another term for that, among our youth. The next slide talks about a little more this idea of resilience. This here is called the resiliency wheel. It talks about 6 protective factors that can be provided by families, schools, and communities. And again, you'll notice that these protective factors are all adult actions. The adults are the ones responsible for providing these protective factors, not the students. So we have the ability through our actions at school, at home, in the community to equip youth to navigate difficult situations, manage stress, and persist in the face of adversity. So the next slide talks about our 3 to Succeed campaign. And our data from the youth survey, which again, I provided a very cursory overview of, reinforced what we've known from decades of research, which is that when youth have protective factors in their lives, they have healthier outcomes. And specifically, children and teens with 3 or more protective factors are more likely to manage stress, to make better choices, and to develop healthy habits. So one of the examples of that here are some family protective factors, including being available to help, knowing where your children are, involving your children in family decision-making, showing respect for all family members, and communicating clear disapproval of drug and alcohol use. And the next slide depicts how having just 3 family-based protective factors significantly reduces youth participation in risky behaviors. And the results are pretty dramatic. If you look at these graphs here, they illustrate a variety of risky behaviors. And you can see how on the left side of this graph, we see the frequency of those behaviors for youth who report having 0 family assets. And as you move forward, you see the frequency of those behaviors reported among youth with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 assets. And you can see some fairly dramatic results there about the proportion decreasing substantially of risk behaviors among students who report steadily more assets. This is a trend that there's graphs galore that we can show you, right? This is across all risk behaviors. These are across family-based assets, school-based assets, community-based assets, and they're pretty pronounced. I wanted to dive in a little bit to the mental health protective factors piece because it has some pretty significant implications for how we talk about these findings. So if you're able to look at the graph here, and if you can see the details there, you'll see that for youth who report having 0 protective factors, 70% of those youth reported persistent sadness and hopelessness. That number drops to 42% for youth with 3 protective factors, and it drops down to 18% for youth with 6 protective factors. 45% of youth with 0 protective factors reported thinking about suicide, compared to 17% of youth with 3 protective factors, and down to 6% with 6 protective factors. And then similarly, we have 24% of youth, almost 1 in 4, with 0 protective factors reporting attempting suicide, compared to only 6% of youth with 3 protective factors, and only 2% of youth with 6 protective factors. So you go from 1 in 4 youth attempting suicide to 1 in 50 youth attempting suicide, as you go from 0 protective factors to 6 protective factors. So clearly those factors make it significantly easier for our youth to cope, to be resilient, and to manage stress. So when we're talking about our youth mental health needs, the conversation in the community, and in our schools tends to focus on intervention and treatment, particularly the need for greater access to treatment. And that's a very real need. We do need to be having that conversation. However, it's equally, if not more important, for all of us to focus on helping youth establish at least one stable and committed relationship with a supportive parent, caregiver, or other adult in their community. We need to focus on providing a caring and encouraging school environment where youth feel a sense of connection and belonging, and where they feel seen and heard and valued. We need to teach youth foundational social and emotional skills to help their emotions become both mentionable and manageable. All of which is to say, we want to balance our intervention work with a focus on prevention and wellness promotion efforts for all students, which our data clearly show have a really significantly powerful effect on youth's mental health and well-being. So I wanted to share that piece as kind of a lens through which to interpret these data. When we ask the question, how do we increase the likelihood of these positive outcomes and decrease the likelihood of these negative outcomes? This idea of protective factors really is one of the most potent answers that we can offer, and one of the things that we as a division are doing our best to try and promote among all of our students, and particularly those students at the highest risk. And then the final slide there shows you the link, which I believe was already placed in the chat on the youth survey website. There's a really nice function there where you can actually customize different graphs to take a look at different aspects of the data. All sorts of questions were asked, and so anything that you might see as meaningful or important, you could dive into those data. At this time, we only have division level data available, but we are intending to be able to disaggregate the data by pyramid as we have done in the past. That will likely be done within the next few months, and more communication should be coming out to follow. We also know that there's some interest in having the data by school. That's a bit of a more laborious endeavor, and we're working to figure out what resourcing we can get to make sure that we can develop those results and get those reports out to local PTAs. But for the time being, we're going to do our best to at least work at the pyramid level to give communities a sense of what's going on specific to their community relative to Fairfax as a whole. And that's it for me here. Any questions that I can answer?
I think everybody's kind of a little dumbstruck. One, I'm going to thank you for coming on and sharing that. So the access to report, the link, we'll provide it. This entire PowerPoint, by the way, I'm going to put in the chat at the end of this as well, so you'll have access to it as well. I do see a question there from Gemma. Your hand's raised.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. Lots of really interesting information and statistics in there, so thank you for that. I wondered if you guys have anything more specific to kind of elementary school students versus the mental health challenges at middle school and high school. Clearly there's mental health challenges at all ages, but just something that might be more easily translatable into advocacy work or support work at kind of the different groups of schools, if that makes sense.
Sure, that's a great question. So with the youth survey in particular, There's one survey that's more comprehensive that's given to 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students, and another survey that's a little bit more pared down that is administered to 6th grade students. So for this particular measure, the insight that we have into elementary school students really comes from our 6th grade students, and you can see that report separate on the Fairfax County government's website. It'll give you a separate report of those results for our 6th graders. If we're looking at downward extensions, for example, what do we know about our K through 5 students? The youth survey isn't going to tell us currently what's going on with those students. What I would tell you is, the current 6th graders were kindergarten through 5th graders, not to state the obvious, but this really gives you a sense of what those students are likely heading into, and gives you a sense of where we want to intervene. Because if we're really looking at prevention and at health promotion and at early intervention, we're going to look at what can we do during those early and mid-elementary years to try and stave off some of those negative outcomes there.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. Thank you. Because I know our school administration's really keen on working on social emotional wellness, which we absolutely support for our elementary school. So I was just wondering what guidance or kind of information we have at that level. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it reinforces the idea of when we talk about social and emotional learning and wellness, taking that focus of building some of those skills universally, fostering those relationships between and among students and adults, integrating social and emotional learning across content areas, and building in practices throughout the day that tap into those key social and emotional learning capacities. At the elementary level, they're doing morning meetings as a space to be able to discuss these topics and to make these social and emotional concepts mentionable and manageable, and hopefully integrating throughout the day. So I think definitely on the right track there.
Great, thank you.
Larry, there's one more question there from Laura.
Yes, I can read that.
Okay.
Laura writes, are there parent-focused presentation speakers on this topic and approach?
Yeah, so I think that at the division level, we're going to do our best to keep these materials available as broadly as possible. For presentations, sometimes we get requests from school, like local PTAs, so we'll have different schools request presentations. Typically, we wait until we have pyramid data available so that we can then provide presentations on, for example, if you're in the Woodson Pyramid, we want to present data from the Woodson Pyramid, which may be more specific to that community's needs than the global FCPS data. And what we usually do is we try and put parents in touch with the school, both the administrators and the clinical and counseling staff. So the school counselors, school psychologists, school social worker, and we typically centrally do our best to support those staff members with the resources and guidance that they need to be able to deliver a presentation at those local schools. So they would be your touch point. Certainly, if you reach out to me, I'm happy to put you in contact with them, but we want to make sure that we do that both to ensure that the results are pyramid specific, but also to build connections with the resources that you have at your own school buildings to make sure that they're able to speak to, and this is what we're doing in our building to try and address some of these needs.
Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, I just saw a question in the chat about the timeline for.
Same question, yeah.
Yeah, the pyramid data. Typically, it's December, January that we have that. I'm partnering with the county and actually meeting with some of their officials next week to talk about some assistance that they may be able to offer. One of the things that we encounter is that the county, the government subdivides the county differently than the school system does. So when we talk about different groups, there's the way that they would kind of slice up the different catchment areas is somewhat different than we would. And so we need to make sure that we have the resources available to do that. And so right now we're looking at our Office of Data Management within Special Services to try and figure out, how much time they'll need with this, among other projects, to be able to disaggregate that. And typically what they do is they disaggregate the results, they generate a report, they post that report to be available for both community members and for staff members. And so we're hoping within the next 2 or 3 months to be able to have that information available. I see the follow-up question about the frequency. No, it's done every year, but the reason it wasn't done in 2020 was because of the pandemic. This is actually the first year in 2021 that it was administered electronically. That capability didn't actually exist in 2020. It was always paper pencil. And so that precluded the ability to complete it then. But other than that, it was done 2018, 2017, 2016 on a single year basis beforehand.
Excellent. Excellent. Anyone else? No, okay, excellent. Well, I want to really thank you for your time and coming on, Michael. It really was very informative, very eye-opening. And obviously, if new things present themselves come February, March, whenever that's aggregated, we'd love to have you back and see what you have there as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Larry, and everybody else. It was a pleasure to be with you all this evening.
Thanks so much. All right. Changing gears back here. We're going to skip backwards a little bit. Jenna is not with us today, but she wanted to make sure you all were aware of a couple things. The training resources that we have available on your board, they're available on our website as well, Run Your PTA. If you have any photos, if you want to share of local leader groups or activities that you're doing, you can share those accordingly as well. Community events, same thing. We do have a list of, we're trying to generate a list of recommended speakers for your local units. So if you have someone that could fit that need, you think might fit that need, you can submit that information to us as well. And we'll be able to share that with the community as a whole, so that you might be looking for someone. A couple of years ago, actually before the pandemic, there was a speaker that went around talking a lot about internet security. We had ones that talked about the vaping. So there are different speakers that this is their specialty, like Michael just was, and they can, if they're available, they can come and speak to your individual units or your pyramid or whatever you have done. And then obviously any news or blogs that you want to share with us, you can share them on the at her email at vp.communications@fccpta.org. If you have not visited the site, I would encourage you to do so. She did a heck of a job, and it's just getting better and better. And the more you all give us, the more robust it can be. So please, by all means, share with us if you have anything. All right, excellent. I'm going to move forward here. Move forward a little bit because I gotta skip back past. So give me a second here. Almost there. All right. Moving right along here, we're going to get back into our agenda. And that leads us to Kathy Ryan. Are you still with us, Kathy?
I am still here. I have
Please.
cold, so sorry that I sound so raspy tonight.
No problem at all.
Yeah, so yeah, I had my high school reunion over the weekend. And we had our own little super spreader event, but it was only a cold, not COVID. So we were really happy about that.
Okay.
So just a couple of things. Those of you who don't know me, I work in the Office of Communication and Community Relations. We sit next to the superintendent's office, and I'm here as a representative for Dr. Reed and reporting back to her anything that needs to go to her. As you probably know, she would have been here tonight, but there was she was double booked with a school board meeting, and so she had to be at the school board meeting. And I think many of the other FCCPTA folks are at the school board meeting tonight too. I will put, excuse me, a couple of links in the chat. Just want to make sure that you all are seeing information about the superintendent community conversations that are going around, and in the pyramids. We have 7 remaining, and they've been really wonderful events. And we've had a lot of PTA folks come and speak at those. They're wonderful. Dr. Reed is really enjoying getting to know the communities. So we have 7 more. The last one is at Annandale on November, I think, 29th. So I'll put a link in the chat for that, for those. And if you can't go to the one that's nearest to you, or the one nearest to you has already passed, you're welcome to go to any one of these events coming up. It's not restricted to just the folks in that particular school pyramid. The next thing I want to talk about, and I think Deb, you mentioned something this in the chat, but the capital improvement program, which we call the CIP, or school renovations, as many of you know, and some of you are going through right now. Excuse me. Our office is working on a boosted community engagement for this program and this process. So you may be seeing stuff from your information from your school. I may be reaching out to your PTA to help if we have a community engagement event going on at your school, to help get the word out to your members. It's one of the projects that I'm working on. We're just starting up, and it's really kind of exciting. Having been through that when my children were in school. that it's really exciting, and we really want the community to be engaged and active in this capital improvement program process. So I'll put a link in the chat for that. Then those of you who are interested in giving feedback on the ESSER, the community feedback form closes Monday night. That was in the FCPS week newsletter that came out yesterday, but I'll put that link in there as well. And then we're starting process for getting community engagement feedback on the strategic planning. And so this is initiative Dr. Reed, we're supporting with communications, and that you'll start seeing that repetitively in FCPS this week. So I encourage all of you as local PTAs to take information from FCPS this week and amplify as much as you can. We really are working very hard to increase community engagement from everybody, all school levels, everybody, because it's important that parents and students in our community have engagement with us on things that are going on. It's important to have that engagement. So I will stop talking and get a glass of water, and I'll put a bunch of links in the chat, and I'll also put my email in the chat. Dr. Reed is out and about in the community. If you haven't seen her yet, you will see her beyond these community conversations. She's going to football games. She's going to STEAM events. She's going to, you name it. I don't know when the woman is ever home or when she sleeps, but you can certainly, if you have an event at your school and you want her to come, reach out to her office and see if she can fit it. It can be fit into her very busy schedule. I will advise to you that really look forward into your calendar into 2023 and see if you can find something that's a date and email her office. And if you can't get a hold of her office, you can email me and I'll pass that forward to them. But she would love to come to your school and meet your families, meet your students, meet you, and learn what's going on at your particular school. So again, I'll stop talking and put a whole bunch of stuff in the chat.
Excellent. Any comments, questions from the crowd? There's something in the chat here. Oh, Gemma left. Okay. All right. Moving right along. Thank you so much, Kathy. Appreciate it. All right. Following our agenda here, we'll next hear from our ambassador's chair, Erin Anderson. If she's still with us.
Hi,
Look at that shit.
in the interest of time, I'm talking. Am I not talking?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, hi, I'm Erin Anderson for those who do not know, and I'm the ambassador chair. What our ambassador program is, ideally, we would like to have one local unit representative in leadership position per pyramid to kind of serve as our ambassador from FCCPTA. So our ambassadors share information from FCCPTA, FCPS, Virginia PTA, down to all the local units in their pyramid. And at the same time, they share information up. So if our ambassadors are getting questions or getting concerns from some local units that they don't know how to answer, or just something, a point they want to amplify, they can bring it to me, to the board, as they need some help, they need some suggestions, or something that maybe we need to look at more. Also, it's a great way to unite your pyramid. We know that several pyramids have already had pyramid-wide meetings with their local units. So the elementary school, middle school, high school, PTA, PTSAs are all kind of getting together to have conversations about what's going on in their pyramid. And bringing in their school board representatives or any other person who would be of interest to chat with for the pyramid. We do have some needs still. We still have some pyramids that we are looking for an ambassador. I'll put them in the chat because there's 9. But quickly, it's Herndon, Oakton, Annandale, Marshall, Edison, Lewis, Centerville, South County, Robinson, Chantilly, and Madison. If you or someone else would like to have more of a volunteer opportunity with FCCPTA and kind of get your feet wet and come in as an ambassador, we would love to have you on board. Aside from those pyramids, I'll also put my contact information so you or anyone else can contact me, learn more about it. We had a training recently for our ambassadors. And I was going to give you some highlights, but I'm going to keep it short. The main thing, just to reiterate, that we shared to our ambassador to share to their local units is compliance documents to get those in. That's like your financial reviews, your 990s. Big thing though that counts as compliance is your dues to FCCPTA and Virginia PTA, and your officer names, updated officer names and contact information. A lot of units, so you need to make sure that that's all up to date. So I will put all that information that I shared in the chat, and I will be done, since there's a lot more I could say, but I won't.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate it as always. Along here, next forward, we have Denise Bolton, who's stepped in to save us and help our Reflections program. Denise, you still with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Hi, just quickly, so the website and the top 5, top 10 things that go out have had information for the local PTAs to register with me so that we know to contact all the local chairs. So I have done that with everybody as of today that's registered. We are providing for those that want to use our Dropbox, which has a lot of file space for the actual entries, which can each be a gigabyte. So across the council, all of the PTAs, we could need many gigabytes of storage space. So I have that. So we're providing Dropbox. We did a online training last night, and I'm sending out written instructions and guidelines of how to do that, collect entries from the students if you want to do that using our Dropbox. And then all the other general information about the Reflections program. So I think we're up and running. Please, for any schools, try to conduct our student programs, Reflections, Spelling Bee, and anything else. It's a very popular program with students, and I know sometimes it's hard for locals to get somebody running Reflections at your school, but we highly encourage it, and we're here to help. Reflections at FCCPTA.org, however we can, to make sure as many school PTAs as possible offer the program to students. Thank you.
Thank you. We did see at the national convention some of the recognizees of the awards. Their art and media was shared with us at the national convention too. So it's good to see that, and it's a nice platform for a lot of people to express themselves. So thank you for helping with that. Right along, next up, Charles, you're up with awards, grants, and scholarships.
Yeah, just real quick, kind of, in each of those categories, we had a training session on grants. It's a last month that was recorded, so available on the site if you want to check that out. We also, Amanda Campbell, the SEPTA, Special Education PTA president, and us submitted a grant at the council level to do family engagement. We both won. We're splitting one grant actually, so with $1,250 grant for FCCPTA. So we're still working through what that looks like. I think the idea is they wanted to, want us to be engaging with folks besides just PTAs. So we're the NAACP, the the Hispanic group, LUPTA, I think they're called. Board of Supervisors, teachers union. So we're brainstorming folks that we could partner with to pursue family engagement goals jointly. So more to follow on that. A lot of homework, if you will, that they've been giving us to work through on that. But more to follow what that looks like. And then the other two awards and scholarships those are kind of the long lead items. Probably after the first of the year is when we'll start up on the awards process. Look for a training session on that from us. We'll put something together on how to write a good award, and then be looking for a location, etc., for the awards hoedown at the end of the year. That'll be a feeder to the Virginia PTA process, obviously, and then scholarships. The one I know very, very little about, but I think that's a spring thing. If anyone has any ideas for corporate sponsors that, or folks that could pile on to other scholarship opportunities, always looking for great ideas. So subject to your questions, keep it short. That's what I have.
Thank you so much, Charles. There's a lot of grants out there, so for you to apply for at your local units as well. So you can scan our site, you can go to the national site, you can email Charles, you can email me. There are a lot of programs out there to help you support some of the great efforts you guys are doing at the local levels. I'm moving right along. Amy, actually, Amy, she's not here, right? I don't think she made it. Okay. Amy Newell's our Health and Wellness Chair. Just advertising again for our open forum on lockdown drills and implementation. That is Monday, October 10th, 7 to 8 p.m. Registration, you can register on this PowerPoint when I send it. But also it's on our website as well, so you can register there as well. And it'll probably be, well, the 5 and the 5's already happened, so it'll be on the next time you get that. But check your emails, check our website for registration on that as well. And there'll be a survey on school lunches coming shortly as well. Eliza Morris. So we already know that video doesn't work. So Eliza, please.
Thanks. I was really looking forward to doing that. If anyone actually wants to see this video, you'll have to go to see Jenna White's work on FCCPTA.org. Go to the program section, you'll find Spelling Bee. So that is what I run. I've been doing this for FCCPTA as a volunteer since 2015. And we are the regional partner with Scripps and have been in Fairfax County and Alexandria City since 2009. A lot of people think that the Spelling Bee program is run with FCPS, and no, it is FCCPTA and our volunteers that have made this program available to all the schools, elementary and middle schools in Fairfax County and Alexandria City. The program is available to public schools and private and parochial and homeschooling. And really what it's just up to is the schools to sign up. And so that's what I'm here for, because the enrollment period for the Spelling Bee is open. It's open until January 31st, and it's super easy to enroll. Per school, it costs $175. All you need to do with your credit card as a school administrator or as a PTA leader, depending upon who's running the program at your school, is go to Scripps' site, spellingbee.com. And there's an enroll button in the upper right-hand corner. Click it. If you have a credit card, they'll also take a check, but within a credit card, you'll be done in 5 minutes, and you'll have access via download to all of Scripps' copyrighted materials, and that means rules, word lists, procedural videos, all sorts of helpful material. And the second part that you get, for better or for worse, and I'd say for better, is you get me. I have been, as I said, been running this for years. I'm an elementary and middle school coordinator. I have trainings recorded for bee coordinators. If you're a newbie, this is for you. If you want to be a bee judge or pronouncer, when your school is having a bee in January and February, typically, I have a training video for you. Those are all available, again, through the bee section of FCCPTA.org. If your school signs up, I will be communicating with your coordinator once about every 2 weeks, check in, offering hints, et cetera, et cetera. And our bee season, as I said, starts now, and enrollment is open till the end of January. But if you sign up now, you've got access to the material, and it all ends at the Fairfax County Spelling Bee in mid-March, which is the final local spelling bee. It's an official Scripps bee, and it's for all of our local spelling bee school champions. And the winner of that bee goes to the National Spelling Bee and spends a week, costs paid, with a parent or guardian at the Gaylord Hotel for Bee Week, and competes in the 2023 National Spelling Bee. So it's pretty cool. I fundraise every year, so this program does not cost FCCPTA. I get local businesses and nonprofits to contribute to cover our costs to make sure that we can offer this program not just to the public school system and PTAs, but to everybody, every school, elementary and middle in the county and in Alexandria City. So if you want to get in touch with me, spelling bee chair@fccpta.org. I'll put the information in the chat, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Eliza. Moving on.
Hi, my name
I
is
was going to play. Great. All right. Move on to our representatives to our school board advisory groups and our community groups, starting with Kara. Kara, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, Kara, please.
Hello. So the thing I want to highlight tonight is there's an ACE interface presentation coming up on the 1st of November at 7 p.m. This ties in so well with the youth survey results. The Adverse Childhood Experience Study, if you're not familiar with it, is comprehensive, and it is just, there's really groundbreaking information about the biology and the science around what we can do in those protective factors that we heard about. And so if you have not already seen the ACE presentation, I highly recommend it. You can also, they will come in and do the presentation for your schools. You could do it for your, individual schools. You could do it for the pyramid. It is really, really, really important and good information. And it ties so perfectly with those youth survey results to really understand what are the adverse childhood experiences and how they carry that impact forward. And then those protective factors, you saw the big difference that makes. So that's the big one. That's from the TIC and the Trauma Informed Community Network. And then with SHAC, our focus this year is on technology and wellness. And so we're just getting started, but we're really, taking a look at that. The other things that have come up, and I think it was mentioned elsewhere as well, we're hearing about nutrition and school lunches and breakfasts and food in schools. And then there's that, the workshop on the meeting on Monday, the 10th, about the videos that are shown before lockdown. And so if that's something your community if you've got members in your community interested in talking about that, there's that meeting for that. You can always contact me, and I'm happy to help or answer any questions. And I really recommend you check out that ACE interface training on the 1st. Thanks.
Thank you, Kara. Right along. Amanda had to leave. I think her phone died. But I think you gave Debbie some notes. Debbie, do you have something from Amanda?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Larry. I'm a member of SEPTA, so Amanda knew I would be here, so which is good. Couple things. SEPTA, as usual, has been very, very busy and has a busy schedule coming up. Amanda did want me to share that they are participating in reflections this year. And that if anyone, is participating with SEPTA and wants to submit, to do that through their website. And they also have their mini grants for their teachers, which is going to be due by October 15th. Another event they're holding on October 15th is a playground event from 1 to 3 p.m. at Laurel Ridge Elementary. They're excited about that. They have a quarterly meeting coming up with Dr. Reed, and this, that they obviously are really trying to stay engaged with her and her office. And they will do a check-in with the Chief Equity Officer, Dr. Nordis King, as well. Let's see, November 15th at 8 p.m. they have their general membership meeting with a presentation by a U.S. attorney on bullying related to students with disabilities. And then on December 3rd, they have an IEP Palooza at Luther Jackson Middle School, and that's going to be from 9 to 12 that morning. So they'll have breakout rooms. They'll be able to discuss goals, accommodations, everything there. So that'll be a very informative event for them. And they continue to meet with the school board and meet, of course, with Dr. Reed on making sure that they have great communications, as well as Dr. Boyd and her staff. So again, SEPTA is very engaged in our community, and please, I encourage you to go to their website to check out what they're doing, share it with your local PTA members, and so that we can be very supportive.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, and just want to double it down on that is that membership to SEPTA is a separate membership. It's still part of all this, but you can become a member of SEPTA independent of your school, and you should. And I think that this is a resource that parents that have a need aren't necessarily aware of. So it's important that in your meetings, if you don't have a representative for, that you at least make everybody in your communities aware that this resource does exist. So I think that's the biggest thing is awareness. It's one of our main goals with the FCCPTA is make everyone aware of all the resources available to you. And this is one that I think is quite useful for those families and parents that need it. And I put the website in the chat. All right. That did good. Doing pretty good on time, right? So we're at the open floor period of time. I want to mention a couple of things, reminders, some upcoming events. We have an open forum, as we mentioned, on lockdown drills and implementation. That's on Monday, October 10th. The ACE interface that Akara mentioned is on November 1st, Tuesday. All reflections entries are due to FCCPTA by November 15th. And then please save the date. Our winter meeting is on Wednesday, December 7th at 6:30. Of course, you can find all this information on our website, especially regarding the events at fccpta.org. At this time, any additional comments, questions, concerns, announcements, anyone? I know Debbie has something to share, please.
Oh, I just wanted to congratulate Colin Powell Elementary PTA. They were just awarded a Virginia PTA membership challenge award for a $100 gift. And so I don't think they've actually announced it through their communications, but I was sent, along with our membership chair, was sent a message to let us know, let the council know that Colin Powell had been awarded this this fund for their membership campaign that they've been going with. So I just wanted to give them a shout out.
Thank you. Kara.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to provide a quick update to what Larry mentioned earlier about the lunch survey. And I wanted to share it with you because it's actually a concern that came up at my local elementary school. I am the PTA president at my son's school, and I had a couple of parents during my PTA meeting ask questions about school lunches and share some of their concerns with me. And they said, is this something the PTA can help with? And I said, yes, we can help you learn how to advocate. So the whole reason that FCCPTA is taking an interest in this is because a local unit raised it to their attention. So if you're at a PTA meeting or you're talking to a parent in your community and they mention something and they say, is this something that FCCPTA or PTA can help with? You can say yes, and you can reach out to Robert Rigby for assistance, because that's what I did.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? Anything else you'd like to share? Talk about anything? No one has anything? A quiet group of PTA people? That's not even possible, really. You all sure? All right. Well, listen, I pride myself on being pretty good with time. A couple special thank yous. I do want to thank our officers that are both present and worked on this. Obviously, Colleen Coggins, our secretary, Jamie Rusi, our treasurer, Jenna White, as I mentioned, for communications, Kara Jenkins, who you just heard from, our VP of training, Duyan Brink, who's on the line as well, VP of programs, Robert Rigby for VP of advocacy, Debbie Kilpatrick, our VP of outreach, and then yours truly, Larry Mills, your current president. Hopefully you found this informative. I did put the presentation for the entire thing that I presented in the chat as well. And I believe this video version of this should be sent to those that are registered as well. And we'll probably have it on our website as well. Thank you all so much for coming, and thanks for giving us your time. Please remember there is no wrong way to PTA. Get involved, get engaged. As we all saw, more involvement equals happier, healthier kids. So let's do what we can to help them out. Thank you all for the time. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.